greatest escape artist didn't use a single bullet. At the notorious Pretoria prison, Tim Jenkins spent 404 days hand-carving wooden keys. Using a brilliant mind, he copied the complex structure of locks after seeing them for just a few seconds. Many called him crazy, but the moment a wooden key quietly turned inside a steel lock, one of the strictest prison security systems in South Africa began to collapse. It all started in 1979 in South Africa. Tim Jenkins and Stephen Lee, two young white anti-apartheid activists, arrested for printing and distributing 18 different leaflets against the apartheid regime. The court handed both of them 20 years. Fast forward, Tim and Stephen walk through the gates of Pretoria Central Prison, one of the most brutal prisons on earth at the time, and a place no one had ever escaped from. Inside, they meet Dennis Goldberg, a man serving for consecutive life sentences. Dennis had been there long enough to know this place was a graveyard for dreamers. But Dennis didn't know one thing. Tim Jenkins carried something inside his head that Pretoria had never faced before. The mind of a natural-born engineer with near photographic memory. So how does a man use that gift in a place where everything is controlled? One quick glance at a guard's door. Tim didn't look at the lock the way most people would. He photographed the entire mechanism in his mind. Every groove, every angle, locked in. Think about it. You look at a lock once, for just a few seconds, then have to recreate it entirely from memory. Could you do that? In the prison woodshop, from scraps of wood, Tim started carving. By hand. From memory. No blueprint. No measuring tools. This didn't happen overnight. The process took months. Try, fail, start over. Dozens of times. Stephen Lee helped him hide the keys. Every day after exercise, they'd secretly bury them in the prison garden soil. Nobody suspected that buried beneath the dirt guards walked over every single day was a set of keys to freedom. But having the keys is one thing. Would they actually work? Would the plan hold? The first test night, Tim slides the wooden key into his cell lock, turns it a millimeter at a time. Nothing moves. He turns again, the wood biting into metal, each second stretching like a year. The sound of guard boots echoing from the end of the corridor. Then, a soft click. The lock opens. One door down, the first key for the cell door, then a second for the corridor. But between his cell and the outer wall stood 9 doors total. 9 different locks. Dennis Goldberg warned Tim, if they escaped, every political prisoner left behind would face brutal retaliation. So Tim had to choose, his own freedom or the safety of the men staying behind. Tim steps into the dark hallway, then slips back into his bunk before anyone can notice. Hard hammering, but it worked. A wooden key, carved from memory, had just opened a prison door. This wasn't crazy. It was real. Day 404 in prison. This was the moment. Tim made his decision. They were going. But 2 men weren't enough. They needed a third, Leonard Fontaine, a prisoner housed near their block. At first, Leonard flatly refused. He didn't buy the wooden keys, didn't trust a plan that sounded like something a madman dreamed up. Then he changed his mind. What makes a complete skeptic bet his life on a few scraps of wood? Maybe it was those nights he watched Tim quietly turn a key in the dark, the cell door swinging open, Tim stepping back to his bunk like nothing happened. Leonard understood then. This wasn't wishful thinking. This was a real shot. The 3 of them start moving through the corridor. Then, at a critical checkpoint, a guard blocking the way. This wasn't about keys anymore. This was a mind game. And the man who saved them, can you guess? Dennis. The same man who said escape was impossible. Dennis deliberately created a diversion, drawing the guard away. The guard clears the hall. Tim moves. Door 1. Key in. Turn. Open. Door 2. Turn. Open. The 3 of them slip through door after door, hearts pounding through their chests. Every click of a lock cutting through absolute silence. Guard footsteps could ring out at any second. All opened with wooden keys. 9 doors. 9 keys hand-carved from memory. Not one failed. Then door 10. The final steel door, the last thing standing between them and the outside world. The last key won't turn. Stuck solid. Months of preparation. 9 doors already open. Freedom just one slab of steel away, and it won't budge. Leonard pulls out a chisel. The sound of metal scraping against the lock cuts through the dead of night. Every second feels like a lifetime. Then the lock gives. All 3 step outside, walking down the street like ordinary citizens. But deep down, he was still extremely anxious. They move fast, pushing forward. Tim pulls out money he'd hidden before he ever set foot in that prison. They flag down a black driver. Terrified at first he'd turn them in, but the driver recognizes them as political prisoners and steps up to help without hesitation. Straight for the border. In the car, Tim stares out the window. Sunlight, open air, freedom. 404 days of captivity unraveling all at once. For the first time, Tim Jenkins feels it. Real freedom, with nothing left to fear. Back at the prison, the guards discover 3 men are gone, and all they can do is stand there, helpless, amid the joyful cheers of the other prisoners. He nailed every ounce of Tim's reckless nerve, turning worthless scraps of wood into tools that defied an entire prison system. But the key that truly set Tim free wasn't made of wood or steel. It was forged from the one thing no prison on earth can ever lock away: the will of a man who refused to break.